I love that we've created this beautiful, safe space for dogs where it's not just about them running in big laps around an oval. It's super engaging for them, and it's learning to go through tunnels and go over ramps
Mhm.
and climb on tires or dig in sand or jump in a ball pit and
Yeah.
sniff around, and it's all these different elements of what a dog needs to actually tire themselves out.
Hello, humans and puggies, and welcome to the Pug Life Show, brought to you by Pug Parties, because your pug deserves to be the best dressed at the porty, and you can check out their outfits at pugparties.com. I'm your host Donna, and with me are my puggy co-hosts Rosie and Kenji. So recently I had the pleasure of discovering Melbourne's first and only indoor dog park with Rosie, Kenji and their foster sister and brother Roxie and Wally. And boy, did we have a great time. I'm not sure I saw their bodies move for the rest of the day when we finally got home. They were so puggered. But it is a testament to the work that Charnelle has put into creating this amazing space for our fur kids. So if you're looking for a safe alternative to an outdoor dog park that has separate play areas for small and large dogs, not to mention the fact that you don't have to worry about rain, wind or hail for that matter, then I think today's podcast might be just what you're looking for this winter. But before we zoom in on the specifics of what Bark Park can do for you, I want to remind you to subscribe to our newsletter in the show notes so you get advance notice of our next episode and much, much more. Hello, Charnelle. Thank you so much for joining us on the Pug Life Show today.
Thanks for having me, Donna.
That's awesome. So you are the proud owner of Bark Park, an indoor dog play centre, which I can vouch for since all my rat bags have been there for a play and had an absolute ball, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
So first things first, tell us a little bit about yourself and your fur family. We'll excuse
Yep.
the fact that you are not a pug owner.
Sure. So I am a social work by trade. So have always been very passionate about sort of supporting those who are vulnerable, including those who cannot speak that are vulnerable. And my biggest passion of all is obviously dogs. And I now have 4 of my own dogs.
We're crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I am the crazy dog lady, but I wouldn't have it any other way, let's be honest. And how I came about the 4 is also like they were all really vulnerable and needed a loving home. And I was like, well, what's one more?
So run
And
through the
then we
4.
got 4. So yeah, so I have Kovu and Coda. So they're my Pomeranians who the loudest boys you'll ever meet. And really do live up to the Pomeranian name. And they're actually they're my inspo for Bark Park, but we'll talk about that a bit later. And so I got them when they were about 5 months old. They were really, really sick and nobody wanted them because they needed a lot of love and attention. I was actually told by the vet not to get too attached to them because they were so unwell, which just really put a fire in my belly even more to make them well. So they're a true rags to riches story, those 2. And so it was just the 3 of us for about 3 years. And then I started looking after my other 2 for a family friend of a friend. And they then asked me to find them good homes. And it just absolutely broke my heart because I just thought I've been looking after them for a couple of months and I adore them. How could anyone possibly not want them? And
Mhm.
the idea of them not finding homes or being separated or, being in a pound for months on end just tore me up, and I was like, "Wow, well, what's 2 more?" So,
Might
I
as well be
decided
a
to keep
Brady
them,
bunch.
honestly, and so, yeah, one of them has unfortunately had a pretty rough life. We're her 3rd or 4th home now, and that was also part of it was, like, the idea of her having to go to another home and
Mhm.
another home. I was like, "Oh, this poor baby," and I have learnt so, so much from her because she has just come in leaps and bounds since having that stability of my home now. So we've had
Yeah.
her now 2 years. So that's how we became a family of 5.
So what are your third and fourth
Oh, so
names?
Nina and Asal. So Asal is Persian for honey,
Ah.
and Asal is actually Nina's puppy. So Nina had 2 litters, and my mum actually has one of her puppies from the other litter because they all
Oh.
came together, and I was like, "Well, I can't keep all 3." So my mum kept 1 and I took the other 2. And they Shih Tzu cross Poodle cross
Wow.
Maltese. I'm not entirely sure. They look like your typical mutt. But I love them for
Lovable
that.
mutt. Lovable
100%, and
mutts.
they all look so unique and different, and I love that about them. People are always like, "Oh, what breed are they?" I'm like, "Great question."
Pick a
Um,
card, any card,
Pick a card,
you'll
any card.
figure it out. Have you ever
Absolutely.
thought about doing the DNA test to
Yes.
see?
Particularly on Asal, I want to, because Nina, she does actually look like a poodle Shih Tzu mix, but Asal doesn't look like any of these things. I'm so intrigued by her because I'll see like a Tibetan Spaniel. I'm like, oh, that looks like Asal. But then I'll see like a pom mix of something, and I'm like, oh, that looks like Asal. So like, she just looks like so many different dogs, and I'm like, what are you?
I mean, I can't do that with any of my pugs. "Oh, you look like a pug. You look like a pug too." Like, there is no mistaking
There is no
any of
mistaking a pug.
them.
Absolutely. I mean, they all make little puggy noises, but they definitely don't look like
Yes.
pugs.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's
There's something to do with the snoring and the snorting that I think is
yeah,
almost universal.
and maybe the gassy, I'm not sure.
Yes. Yes, unfortunately. Some things will never change no matter what the breed, even though I have to admit Roxie, one of my fosters, by far the worst. The one that wouldn't go up and down the ramp
Yeah,
until
and then she eventually did.
yes, which was God, I wish we had filmed
Had
that,
filmed
but
it,
we'll get to that in a minute.
yeah. So,
She's
yeah.
currently run outside, so hopefully
Oh,
she's
good.
gone out to run outside.
We can only hope.
Yes.
Ah. So that's my fur family, but I have actually been a dog mum since I was 12 years old. I went to my mum during the summer school holidays. We had just lost our family dog who I'd had since I was, like, 2 years old. Like, I don't even remember being alive without her, and I was absolutely devastated by it, and I went to my mum and I said,
Imagine.
"I want my own dog." And my mum thinking, like, I was 12, like, just started high
Would you
school.
know?
"You probably just want your pocket money for, like, phone credit," like, back in those days where we had phone credit that was
Yes.
$20
Mm.
and had to last you the month. But I hustled my little butt off, and I got babysitting gigs with everyone we knew, did everything I could and saved up all my money, went to my mum and I said, "This is how much money I have. Can I get a dog now?" And she was
Bravo.
like, "Crap." I didn't think she'd actually do it. Because it was when I went to her, she said, like, "You can, but it's not about just buying the dog. Like, you've gotta have money
Mhm.
to take it to the vet, to get it vaccinated, to buy its food, to do this, this, and this." And so I did. I saved my little butt off, and I went to her with enough to get the dog, to buy its food, to get it vaccinated, to get a D-sex, like, to do all of those things, and had my little pool of cash just for my little Molly,
That is just so impressive. Like,
12
what
years
you
old.
did reminds me of what we had to do with my stepdaughter, except it was for something way more sophisticated. It was a car.
Oh,
So
wow.
and a lot less loyal. So
Yes. Well, it did
so
set me up well, like, at being such a young age, I learnt so much about responsibility and just, like, that love that you get from your own dog.
yeah.
Like, of course, growing up with dogs, I knew what it was, but
Mm.
the love that you get when the dog is yours versus your family's is, like, on another level.
I am
And
so jealous because I grew up with hunting dogs.
oh,
So
gorgeous.
grew up in a farming areas and
Yep.
all my extended family were dairy or sheep and all
Yeah.
that sort of stuff. So we grew up with hunting dogs and
Very different.
retrievers
Yeah.
specifically. And so they were working dogs. They were not
Mm.
pets. We weren't allowed to have pets because
Yeah.
they you couldn't treat them as a pet. You couldn't
Mm.
So I was always jealous of everybody else who
Mhm.
had a dog for a pet, and then we were talking about it before. I saw Milo and Otis, and
Mhm.
I just went, "That is the dog for me,"
Yeah.
and everyone in my family was like, "What is that?" And because they were just I mean, especially, like, growing up in farming communities, like,
Yeah.
any sort of toy breed is just, like,
It's
unheard
not
of.
a dog, right?
Yeah, not a dog, like, what the hell? And even like, I was in my early 20s before I could actually get Fat Dog, my first pug, who I'd rescued, and but I tell you what, he was same thing, it's your first dog, whatever it is,
Mm.
it's like no other love
Yeah.
that you will never and I was doing an interview with, another podcast interview a few days ago, and we were literally talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
She was an adult, like, same thing, her first pug, and she just went, "Oh my god, there is just nothing like the love of your dog,
Yeah.
pug or anything."
Yeah.
And I really do think the first one just sets you up to be a sucker for the rest of your life.
100%. Yeah. And just, like, it's such a different experience for me, though, like, having had Molly when I was so young, and
Yeah,
I really grew up with her, like, all through my teenage years and navigating being a teenager and finding myself and figuring
best
out who
friend.
I was and but having this little fluffy being who relied solely on me to keep her alive, and it was figuring out, like, "Well, I can't go to this party on Friday night because I have to look after my dog."
Yeah,
And learning those lessons so early in life of the sacrifices that we have to make as dog owners
yeah.
has really just set me up. Like, my boys and Nina and Asal now, I always say my boys because 'cause I'm
Mm.
so used to saying my boys, but the 4 of them have such a like, it's just such a different experience this time round, and I really do feel more like they're my children this time, and
Yeah.
that sort of idea of her being a pet versus these guys are my babies
Mm.
is just such a different experience being in my 30s raising dogs versus being in my teens raising a dog. Hence, now my dogs have their very own dog park.
Oh, no, just and that's a great segue
Yeah.
because you'd mentioned that Kobe and Kova did I get it
Kovu and Coda,
Kovu, sorry, I've
that's
got that
okay.
wrong.
Everyone gets it wrong. So they're
Kovu.
named after The Lion King number 2. There's a lion in it called Kovu, and he's, like, the most attractive looking cartoon lion I've ever seen. And he just as soon as I saw Kovu as a puppy, I was like, "He's Kovu. He's Kovu."
Without a doubt.
Without a
Totally.
doubt. And then Coda is the bear from the movie Brother Bear. So I have 4 brothers, and Brother Bear has always been mine and my brother's movie, like, it's our little
Nice.
movie. And so when we got Coda and he was just so tiny, we were like, "Oh my gosh, he has to be Coda." That's how they got their names.
Oh, I love that. I really
Yeah,
do. I love hearing about how you come up with the name. Like most
yeah,
getting rescues, generally, they kind of already come with their name,
yeah,
especially when they're a lot older.
yeah,
It's difficult to change the name, but I have wondered if they've been so severely abused that
mm,
changing their name is actually not a bad thing
yeah.
because they no longer associate the sound of that name with a bad situation. So
100% agree with you on that one, Donna, because you think about even, like, Nina and Asal, I rarely call them Nina and Asal, like, I will call Nina Ninnies
mm,
and Asal will be Sally, and I always find when I use their names, they'll have a very different reaction to me as opposed to when I'm using, like,
mm,
Ninnies or Sally, and it's that
yeah,
endearing tone that comes with the use of that name,
yeah,
because historically, they've gotten in trouble for things that like, like, I don't
yes,
really know much about their stories previously, but I know that when I use their full names, they have a very different response to me as to when I use their little
don't.
nicknames, so to speak.
Mm,
So I completely agree with you. Sometimes changing their names
no,
is, yeah, beneficial.
yes. We didn't do it with Lewis, even though his nickname was Fat Dog, and he would come to it like
I love that.
it was because when we got him, it was like this little pork barrel. Like he was a pork barrel with legs.
Love it.
And he was just beautiful. And so we got the weight off him. So he was no longer technically a fat dog.
Yeah.
but he'd just come to it, and so we'd be just like, "Damn!" Like people would look at us, and we're like, "No, no, no! It's a term of endearment,
Yeah,
seriously."
absolutely.
But then my grandfather on my dad's side, whenever we went down, would call him Winston after Winston Churchill, and he'd go to him. And my grandfather was really sick and
Yeah.
at that point in time. And so I said to my grandfather, my next black pug, I will call Winston.
Yeah,
And
okay.
unfortunately he passed before we got Winston and Charles,
Oh,
and they were litter brothers, so they were bonded and we adopted them
yeah.
together because their original names. So Winston's was Sumo because he was like, I thought Fat Dog was Chubbly. Winston was Sumo. Like he was
Oh my
14
gosh.
kilos. He was massive for a pug. And then Charles was actually called JJ. And so we thought, they're young enough. Let's see if we
Yeah,
can. And they went to their names really quickly, but it was just sort of like Andrew said, you got to name Winston. And I'm like, well, I didn't actually get to. Poppy did. But he went, no, we're going to call, if he's Winston Churchill, then Charles is going to be Charles Kingsford Smith.
I love
And
it.
it just, and they melded so well. But sort of Kenji and Rosie, we got when they were a lot older. So we just sort of went trying to change their names when
Yeah,
they're that old. And to be honest, Rosie is a princess. So Rosie does
it
actually
suits.
fit
Yeah,
her very well.
yeah,
But no, I'll have to do a bit of research around changing dogs' names
yeah.
if it has a bit of a negative connotation. It's quite an interesting thought. But anyway, getting back to Bark Park.
Yes,
So how do we get to there? Kovu and Coda, they are the inspirations for Bark
they
Park.
are.
How did that happen?
Well, my darling Kovu is just such a ball of energy. Like, I've never known a dog, well, I do now because I see them all the time here, but had never known a dog to just need so much.
Yep.
And when I say need so much, like, a walk was never just cutting it, and this is why I've learnt so much from them because Molly was just, again, like, such a different experience. Like,
Yeah.
I was 12. But the boys needed so much more, like, all that mental stimulation and the training and everything that's sort of come with them, that I remember sitting there one day, and it was actually during lockdown. So I think it was in 2021, we were in, I don't know what number lockdown it was,
Mhm.
and Kovu was climbing the walls. It was pouring with rain outside, and he was just I remember he was literally sitting on my chest, like, panting in my face, and I was massaging him, and I was like, "Babe, like, what is wrong? How do I help you? What do you need from me?" We'd gone for our walk. He'd done a puzzle, like, we'd done things already, and I was like, "I don't know what more I can give you."
Mm.
And then I sat there and I was like, "What, like, are there, like, places inside that I can take him? Where can I take him so that he can just socialize with some other dogs?" Because obviously at that time, like, there was just nothing really happening in the world.
Mm.
So I got on Google and I started looking, like, indoor places for my dog, and nothing was coming up. Everything that came up was, like, either a doggy daycare
Yeah.
or things that are overseas. And I'm like, "What is going on?" So then I, like, broadened my search, right, and I started looking, like, play centers because I'm like, "Well, I take my niece to a play center. Surely there's something like that for a dog." Nothing.
Mm.
Nothing was coming up. All the while, Kovu's still sitting on my face like this. I'm like, "Babe, I'm trying."
Mom, mom, mom. I can just imagine
He
it.
seriously is. And so that's really where it came from there, was then I just started, like, talking to other people, other dog owners, like, "Oh, do you know of anything like this? Have you heard of anything? Do you know of somewhere?" And everyone was like, "No, actually, I haven't."
Mm.
And so then I got to thinking and I was like, "Why hasn't anyone done this? Why hasn't it been done?"
Especially in Melbourne,
Especially in Melbourne where our weather is just so
outside of
unpredictable.
lockdowns, yes.
For sure. And then I started to discover that overseas they're really popular. They're quite common in America.
Mhm.
And I was like, "Okay, so it is a thing. It's just not a thing here
Key. Yet. Yet.
yet." So then I started, like, just talking to my family about it. I'm really close with my family, and I was like, "What are your thoughts on this? Do you reckon it's something we could do?" And my whole family were like, "This is an awesome idea." And so I made the decision to sell a property that I had and use that money to open Bark Park. I was like,
Wow.
let's do it. Like,
That's a hell of a leap of faith, but
huge.
has worked out really well.
Yes. I mean, we're still young. We're still very young.
Puppy stage.
Puppy stage, T-Rex stage. But yeah, like my brother decided to go and learn to be a dog groomer at the time. He was like, "What if we could offer dog grooming? How cool would that be?" And I was like, "Amazing, like, do it."
Have a play, get groomed,
Yeah.
go have another play.
Yeah, well, he was working in hospitality at the time, so he lost his job, he didn't have a job, and he was
Mhm.
like, "What am I doing? I need to find something to do." So off he trotted and he went and did his course and learned how to be a dog groomer, and particularly during that time, all the dogs were so anxious because
Mm.
lockdown. So he has this amazing skill set of working with all of these really anxious dogs that we now specialize in because
Mm.
it's a service that we get to offer in this really unique environment that no one else has.
Well, and I can hear them in the background. By
Yeah,
the sounds of it, somebody's
somebody's
somebody's come in
arrived.
for a play.
I think a
That
play
was
and
very
everything.
good timing. You almost planned that, didn't you?
I should
Oh,
tell
well,
them.
hopefully we hear excited barks very
I'm
shortly.
sure you will. I'm sure you will.
So, other than grooming, describe the play areas because they were just
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah. So I have two play areas. We've got our small dog area and then our large dog area. And it's not like a hard and fast rule of like no small dogs in the big dog area or anything like that. It comes again from me having small dogs and observing their behavior around big dogs and the fear that especially Coda experiences when he's around dogs that are bigger than him.
Mm.
To me, then going, there are no dog parks where there are small and big dog areas. I eventually found a couple. There's a couple around, and there are some more happening now, like public dog parks. Ultimately, there was none. And I was like, how awesome would it be to have a space where my boys can play safely with dogs their size? And it's not so much about like, I don't want them playing with big dogs. It's that Coda weighs 2.5 kilos. If he's playing with like a 60-kilo Roddy,
Mhm.
he's
He's gonna
probably
get
going to get
crushed.
hurt. And
Yes.
not necessarily on purpose, but just because
Mhm.
the weight difference is quite significant.
Yes.
And so that was like really the biggest thing for me was I needed a space where I was going to be able to have two separate areas, and I didn't want the areas to be joining. I wanted there to be space between them so that dogs aren't running up and down fence lines, razzing each other up.
Mm.
'Cause again, behaviors that I've observed going to parks and stuff, and I just thought it's so stressful for the owners as well, like trying to
Mhm.
chase their dogs. Like
Yes.
I've been there.
Calm them down.
Yeah.
Yes.
That I didn't want that here. I wanted there to be really separate areas for people to be able to just safely engage with their dogs without that stress of like, is my dog gonna get hurt through a fence or
Mhm.
gonna get really stressed out through the fence? So yeah, that's how we ended up with the two separate areas. In a perfect world, I'd have more than two areas, but baby steps.
Future expansion options.
Exactly, exactly. I think something about me is like I always wanna just go all in straight away. I'm like, "Let's just do
Mhm.
everything straight away," and I'm like, "Just one step at a time," and I'm learning
Yes.
that, I'm learning that. But yeah, I think that
Mm.
the 2 areas works really nicely here because it also allows us to be able to offer private play for people,
Mhm.
which I think is probably one of our most popular services, is being able to offer a private space for dogs who are reactive or anxious or nervous
Mhm.
and don't get to enjoy ever being off their leads because
Mhm.
it's too stressful for them.
Yeah.
They don't like the unpredictability of running into another dog or having those experiences. So we are able to offer a space at the back, high fences, not see through, where they get to just be. They get to
Yeah.
just be. So I love that. I love that we get to offer that. So that's, yeah, that's the
Just
play areas.
mm,
Um, and then we also have
and
our
then
cafe.
yes. So
Who
just
doesn't
in
love
case
that?
you need to refresh
Yes, which we
after
all
and
do.
then Puppuccinos?
Puppuccinos, which are very, very popular, obviously. And I often get asked about puppuccino before I get asked about a coffee for the human. Do you guys have puppuccinos? Yeah, we do. Oh, awesome. I might get one of those. I was like, sure. Would you like a coffee for you as well? Oh, I didn't know you did that.
Even better.
Even better. So I was very much a need to have a cafe in here because, again, like so much of this is just drawn on from my own experiences and observations of being a dog owner.
Mhm.
And I love going to cafes and taking my dogs with me, but
Mhm.
I always think about like the term of we're dog friendly. And what is dog friendly? I don't necessarily think that these places are dog friendly. They're dog tolerant. You can bring your dog, but your dog has to stay under your seat and they're not allowed to bark and they're not allowed to make
Mhm.
noise and they're dogs.
Do
They're going
doggy
to do those.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I was like, well, I think we're going to be dog friendly, human tolerant at Bark Park. So
Much better, much
much
better.
better. I agree. So, how great to be able to enjoy a coffee and your dog is playing safely and you still get to chat with other people and be part of this community without, oh, contain your dog under your seat, please, because there are people
Mhm.
walking past.
Yes.
So that was, yeah, that was a big part of it for me was I know I love to have a coffee when I'm at the dog. I always have to just drive through good old Mackie D's to get a coffee.
Yep.
And then by the time I actually get to the dog park, I'm nearly finished the coffee. So,
Yes.
so it doesn't really work out for me.
Mm.
Um,
But
yeah,
your play areas, they're just, because obviously I took all 4 rat
you
bags.
did.
Oh god, it would have been a couple of weeks ago now, and we were quite lucky. We had the place to ourselves, which was wonderful. We timed it
VIP
very
service.
well. Timed it very well. So we got to play in all the areas,
Mhm.
like the little princes and princesses that they are. And so what I loved about both areas was there were toys,
Yes.
there was ball pits, sand pits, step ups, and of course in the large dog area, because I don't think you had a ramp in the small dog area. I can't remember.
So, no, so in the small dog area, it's not so much a ramp, it's a bit more of like sort of steps coming up.
Yeah,
And it's
like
really
a
hard
little
to,
podium.
yeah, it's kinda like a podium.
Buggy podium.
And yeah, like we've designed all the equipment that we've got here, we've actually made and designed ourselves. And we've done that being really thoughtful around what different sized dogs might need. And so most of what's in the small dog area is in the big dog area, just on a larger scale.
Yeah.
So we've got, yeah, like obviously got the tunnels in both of the areas.
That's what I thought.
And then one of the tunnels has got the ramps sort of going over it, which is always, I love watching the big dogs are such scaredy cats trying to figure out how to get up the ramp. Um, and then obviously
And
the
that, I mean, that
giant
is a
porpoise.
big ramp. Like I was,
It
as
is, yeah.
we were talking before, one of my fosters, Roxie, will not use the ramp
Ramp.
to the couch
Mm,
unless she is enticed with a handful of treats that, of course,
yeah,
everybody else wants to have as well. But it took, I think, what did it take, 2 or 3 times?
yeah.
And then she walked up to the top of the ramp, and then we were just sitting there talking. And you were facing it, and I knew by the look on your face that Roxy had walked up the ramp, and I was like, "Damn it,
Damn it.
no video,
I know,
because
but
no one will believe me."
I think the look on my face, Donna, was more I was so scared she was gonna jump off the top and hurt herself.
She was just, but
But
I
she
mean, even
just
the look
looked
on her
like
face was
no
like,
fear.
"What the hell is this?
Yeah,
What was the big deal about?"
yeah, yes,
Like,
and that's what I was like, "Oh my gosh, she's up there. Don't move a muscle. Everyone
yeah.
stay still."
I thought, "Oh my god." I thought, "How is it that,
Yeah.
like, of her own volition, didn't really
Mm-mm.
care," and it's just like, I don't know, she's the kid that does stuff when nobody's
What
looking,
yeah.
and you've got to be able to catch it out of the corner of the eye. I was just absolutely amazed, and then, of course, she just sort of went, it was almost like a shoulder shrug, "Meh," and then walked down the
Yeah.
other side and
Yeah.
come back around. It was amazing.
And I think that is also something I love so much about what we've created here is watching dogs overcome this little fear that they have of trying new things. And
Mm.
particularly some of our regular customers, like I always think back to one of our members who the first time they came here, their dog was so scared to even get out of their car because they're like, where am I? I'm at this new place and
Mm.
it's a bit scary for me. He was only a puppy. And now, like, tells me, his owner tells me all the time, like, they turn down Cochrane's Road, and he's, like, at the window, like, yelping and
Yeah,
barking because he knows
I
where he's
know exactly
going.
where we're going.
And I just love that. I love that we've created this beautiful, safe space for dogs where it's not just about them running in big laps around an oval. It's super engaging for them, and it's learning to go through tunnels and go over ramps
Yeah,
and climb on tires or dig in sand or jump in a ball pit and
yeah.
sniff around, and it's all these different elements of what a dog needs to actually tire themselves out. That is not
Mhm.
just the age-old idea that everyone has all grown up with our dogs just need a walk every day and they'll be right.
Mm.
It's that mental stimulation and the
Yes.
learning that they all need so much of, and each time people come, like, their dog will do something different or there's new smells for them, and they'll be like, "Oh my gosh, he's climbing on the tires today.
Good
He didn't
stuff,
wanna go near
right?
those last time," and that confidence building that we see in both owners and their dogs because they get to engage in a process here. It isn't just let your dog run free. I'm gonna sit on my phone for half an hour while they play. It's
Mhm.
we really invite people to actually be present with their dog and engage in this process, and we're engaged in this process with them. Like, good luck getting me out of the play area while your dog's here. I promise that I will annoy you for that whole hour because I just love to challenge dogs and people to do things that their dogs don't get to do anywhere else.
Mm,
It's such a special experience for everybody.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, you don't just offer the park open at various hours, which will be on your website, and we will make sure that they're in the podcast notes, as well as you're on Instagram and Facebook.
Yes.
But
And
you
TikTok.
do and TikTok.
Don't
Um,
judge me. I think I have one TikTok follower. It
More than
terrifies
me,
me
which
that
is none.
platform, but we are on there.
So, but you do also offer all the areas you're saying for individual play or even for events.
We do,
Um,
yeah,
so tell us what sort of events you do and what you've got coming up.
of course. So, number 1 is dog parties. Who doesn't love to have a big
Oh, yeah.
celebration for their own pooches?
Yes.
So they're becoming super, super popular, and we always love to do a bit of a theme with all your dog parties as well. So we have all these different backdrops that you can choose from, and we'll set up like a really cool photo booth for your dogs, and people get really into that. So that's a lot of fun. And we'll always host a few little doggy games as well, just to again get people engaged with their dogs, with their guests, and having a good time. And then we also offer whole venue events. So we've had a few corporate events here that have been booked out and hosted. And then, of
Which
course,
I think is just awesome.
yeah,
Like, work pays for my dog to come to the dog park. I
absolutely.
think it's awesome.
Yeah. And what I love about that, though, Donna, is like we're seeing this huge shift in the value that people and workplaces have on dogs and how
Just,
beneficial they are to people's mental
yeah.
health and productivity levels, and recognizing that people's dogs are part of their families. So if we're having a family friendly day out, let's actually make it family friendly for
Perfect.
everyone in the family.
Yes.
So we're really excited to be part of some of those events that people are choosing our venue for. And of course, we have got our pug rescue fundraiser coming up at the end of the month. So super excited to be part of that because that is actually going to be our first fundraising event.
Which is
Uh,
going to be awesome.
it is going to be completely awesome. And then we've also got another fundraising event coming up in July for Pets of the Homeless as well. So really excited to be
Oh,
part of
lovely.
those. Yeah, really excited to be able to give something back to the community as well, because what rescue groups and charity groups like Pets of the Homeless are doing, that work is so incredibly important in keeping our pets and our animals, and also that human connection to our pets as well,
Mm.
there and healthy and stable is such important work. So we're really excited to be part of that as well.
So those events, I'm assuming, are listed on your website. So if people wanted
Um,
to attend or have a look at, see what's coming up?
Yeah, yep. So the tickets for the pug event, as you know, go on sale today. So we will pop up a link on our website to that once that's up and live. With our July event, it is actually a private hosted event through the Bayside Dog Owner Group. So if you are a member in that group, you will be able to purchase tickets to that. But it is, of course, limited tickets, as is our other event, because we do like to keep things safe here. As much as we'd love to have everybody here, we
Mm.
want to keep the environment safe for our dogs, and we don't want there to be too many dogs running around that they end up not having such a great time.
Yes.
So it does
No.
add a little bit of VIP exclusivity to the service, I guess, but it is always, always about the safety of the dogs before anything. So
Yeah.
that's our priority.
No, and it's great that just anyone can hire out the entire facility or
Absolutely.
just one of the,
One area. Yep.
areas
Christmas
and be able to
parties.
enjoy it.
We had, like, dog walkers booking us out for Christmas parties for their like, all of
Nice.
their clients and all sorts of awesome things that just literally anything you could think of that people are like, "We want dogs to be able to come." We are here for that.
And it's great because obviously most outdoor dog parks are council owned,
Correct.
which means you don't have as much flexibility to be able to,
Yeah.
as I have discovered trying to organise other events. And then you also don't have to worry about the weather, which is one of the,
Yeah.
especially in Melbourne,
Yep.
is definitely a bonus.
But I think there's also that added bonus of you it's controlled. You know who's gonna be there, and people are gonna be responsible, as opposed to going to a public dog park where you don't really know who's gonna show up. You don't
Mm,
really know what's gonna happen in the environment, whereas here you do. You know who's gonna be around, you know where you can move to, you know where you can take your dog away or what's in the space and
mhm.
how to have a good time.
Yeah.
And I think that's also what really sets us apart from a public dog park is it's a controlled space. There's never more than, we've got caps on both spaces to make sure that there is never too many dogs around
Mhm.
so that it is safe play. There is enough space for people to be able to my dog just likes to play with his ball, so we're gonna move over here.
Yeah.
Or my dog's doing some training, so we're gonna play over here. And we've not had any issues, thank goodness, touch wood.
Yes. Cross paws.
Cross paws. Um, everyone has been so respectful of everyone's dog's needs, and it's just a really nice, peaceful place to be.
No, and I can vouch for that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Haven't taken all my rat bags there.
Yeah,
So and planning to go back very shortly. So,
yeah. Wow, we
well,
always love seeing them.
thank you so much for your time, Charnelle.
Thank
It's just
you.
been awesome getting to know you and Bark Park. And yes, although you don't own pugs, I can vouch pugs do like you. So that is a good bonus as well.
I love all dogs. It doesn't matter what breed they are. They're all just full of love and full of fun, and there's always something so special about every breed that comes in our doors. So I love learning about
Absolutely.
them and spending time with them all, and yeah, I look forward to having all the pugs here on the night of
The
our
end of the
event,
month.
and
Yes.
yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun and lots of snorting, I'm sure, and I can't wait for it.
Gonna be great. Thank you so much for
Thank
your time,
you.
and I'll let you go because I can hear people in the background, so you've obviously
Yeah.
got more puppies showing up.
I think so. I think 'cause it's starting to get a bit gloomy outside, so
Yes. Perfect time to be going
perfect
indoors.
perfect time to be at Bark Park.
Yeah. I'll catch you later.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Donna. Take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
I think it goes without saying that Charnelle has created a pawsome space where pugs of all shapes and sizes can play safely with stimulating toys and equipment that they might not have at home. And who can forget that whilst they're playing, their parents can enjoy a hot or cold beverage at the same time without having to worry about their pug getting up to mischief like they can at a normal cafe. As a pug parent, I can't think of a better place to take Rosie and Kenji. And you never know, we may actually zoom into each other there sometime soon. So we'd love for you to share your Bark Park experiences over in our Facebook group, Living the Pug Life. That way, other pug parents can see how pawsome it is and hopefully pop by for a visit on a cold, rainy day soon. And if you liked the episode or think someone else might enjoy it, please share it and leave a review with your favourite podcast host so more pug parents can find us and join in with the fun. It only takes a couple of seconds to give us a 5-star review, and it goes a long way to helping other pug parents find us. So until next time, thank you for joining us. Have a pawsome week, and humans, be generous with the snackies.